Welcome, my fellow horror enthusiasts, to a place where the veil between our world and the next wears thin, a place where shadows whisper secrets and the dead sometimes reach out to make their presence known. Tonight we delve into the chilling mystery of three strange phone calls, calls that seem to defy the very grip of death. Turn off the lights, because tonight we invite the darkness in. Imagine this, the clock ticking past midnight, casting long, eerie shadows across your room. You're home alone, lost in the digital world, scrolling through your phone, when suddenly your screen flashes with an incoming call. You glance at the number, unknown. Hesitantly you answer. Silence. A cold, empty silence greets you on the other end, sending a shiver down your spine. You're about to hang up, assuming it's just another prank call, when you hear it. A faint, raspy whisper, barely audible above the static. Your blood runs cold. The voice seems to crackle with an otherworldly energy, a chilling echo from a place beyond our understanding. It speaks your name, a slow, deliberate rasp that seems to claw its way out of the phone's speaker. Panic surges through you. You want to hang up, but something holds you back. The voice continues, whispering fragmented sentences, disjointed memories, and pleas for help. It's as if someone or something is trying desperately to communicate, but their voice is trapped, distorted by the veil of death. You strain to make sense of the words, your heart pounding against your ribs like a captive bird. The voice grows stronger now, clearer, and you can almost make out the words, but they're distorted, laced with an unearthly static that sends chills down your spine. It speaks of betrayal, of a life cut short, of a darkness that consumes all. Then, as abruptly as it began, the voice fades away, leaving you in stunned silence. The line goes dead. You stare at the phone in your hand, your mind racing to make sense of what just transpired. A young woman named Sarah found herself plagued by strange occurrences after the sudden and tragic death of her fiancé, Mark. Mark, an avid photographer, always carried his old Polaroid camera everywhere. It was an extension of himself, a way to capture the beauty he saw in the world, and especially in Sarah. He used to say, "Every photo we take together, it's like freezing a moment of our love in time." Now that camera lay silent, a painful reminder of their shattered future. One evening, as Sarah was sorting through Mark's belongings, a wave of grief washed over her. She picked up his camera, her fingers tracing the worn leather, the imprint of his touch still lingering. As she clutched it to her chest, a strange chill ran down her spine. Later that night, unable to sleep, Sarah found herself drawn back to Mark's camera. She switched it on, the red light blinking like a watchful eye in the darkness. She pointed it at herself and with a trembling hand pressed the button. The familiar whirring sound of the Polaroid filled the silence. But when the photo slid out, Sarah gasped. The photo developed, but it wasn't her looking back. Instead, it was a blurry image of Mark, a faint smile on his lips, holding what appeared to be a piece of paper. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She grabbed her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed Mark's number, a number disconnected since his passing. To her astonishment, the phone began to ring. "Hello?" Sarah's voice trembled. Silence. And then a faint, distorted voice, like a whisper from a dream. "Check the photos." The voice trailed off, leaving Sarah in a state of terrified disbelief. She frantically searched through the box of Mark's belongings, her hands shaking, her mind racing. Finally, at the bottom of the box, she found a small, unopened envelope with her name scrawled across it in Mark's familiar handwriting. With trembling hands, Sarah tore open the envelope and pulled out a single photograph. It was a Polaroid, taken just days before Mark's accident. In it they stood together, arms wrapped around each other, their smiles bright and full of life. But something was different. Behind them, barely visible in the background, stood a tall, shadowy figure. Its eyes, two glowing orbs, seemed to pierce through the photo, staring directly at Sarah. As Sarah's gaze locked onto the figure in the background, her phone rang again. The same unknown number. This time fear warred with a desperate hope. Could it be Mark, trying to communicate from beyond the grave? Taking a deep breath, Sarah answered the call. "Mark? Is that you?" she whispered into the phone. The voice on the other end was faint, almost inaudible, but Sarah could have sworn it was him. "It's not safe, Sarah," the voice whispered. "Don't trust the photos." The line went dead. Sarah's blood ran cold. She stared at the photo in her hand, her mind reeling from the implications of Mark's message. Who was this shadowy figure, and what did it want? Fear gnawed at the edges of Sarah's sanity. She knew deep down that something was terribly wrong. John, a solitary writer living in a remote cabin in the woods, had always been fascinated by the paranormal. He spent his days researching local legends and writing stories that sent shivers down the spines of his readers. He believed that the veil between our world and the next was thin, especially in his secluded corner of the world. One stormy evening, as John was engrossed in his writing, the phone rang. The sound was jarring, echoing through the quiet cabin. He glanced at the caller ID. It was a number he didn't recognize. Intrigued, John answered the call. "Hello?" he said, his voice barely audible above the howling wind outside. Silence, and then a faint crackling sound, as if the call were coming from a great distance. "John," a voice whispered, sending a chill down his spine. The voice was raspy, as if strained through an old radio, and undeniably familiar. It belonged to his grandmother, who had passed away several years ago. John's heart pounded in his chest. He had been very close to his grandmother, and her death had left a gaping hole in his life. He had always wished he could hear her voice one more time, but this was different. This was terrifying. "Grandma? Is that really you?" John stammered, his voice trembling. The voice on the other end sighed, a long, drawn-out breath that seemed to echo through the cabin. "John," the voice rasped, "be careful. They're listening. They're always listening." John's blood ran cold. Who was they? And what were they listening to? Before he could ask, the line went dead. John sat there for a moment, phone still pressed to his ear, his mind racing. He had always believed in the possibility of communicating with the dead, but now that it seemed to be happening to him, he was terrified. The storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil in John's heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that his grandmother was trying to warn him about something, but what? And who were they? The following day, John decided to visit his grandmother's abandoned house in town. He hoped to find some clue, some answer to the cryptic message he had received. The house stood at the end of a long, overgrown driveway, its paint peeling, windows boarded up. It had been empty since his grandmother's passing, and an eerie silence hung over the property. As John stepped inside, the air grew heavy, thick with the scent of dust and decay. He wandered through the darkened rooms, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. In his grandmother's old study, John discovered a hidden compartment in her desk. Inside, he found a stack of old journals bound in leather, their pages filled with his grandmother's elegant handwriting. He sat down and began to read. The journals detailed his grandmother's experiences with the paranormal. She wrote about strange occurrences, unexplained phenomena, and chilling encounters with entities she couldn't explain. She believed that certain locations, certain objects held residual energy, echoes of past events and the spirits that lingered there. She wrote about the dangers of contacting the dead, of disturbing the delicate balance between the living and the afterlife. As John delved deeper into his grandmother's journals, he realized with growing horror that she had been involved in something far darker, far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. She wrote about a group of individuals who sought to exploit the veil between worlds to harness the power of the dead for their own sinister purposes. Thank you for joining us tonight, my fellow explorers of the unknown. If these tales of chilling phone calls from beyond the grave have sent shivers down your spine, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the darkest corners of our world. The lines between life and death, reality and the spectral plane are often blurred. Remember, sometimes the whispers we hear in the dead of night are more than just our imaginations playing tricks on us. Share your own encounters with the unexplained in the comments below. Perhaps your story will be the one that keeps our viewers awake, staring into the darkness, listening for the telltale ring of a phone call from beyond the veil. Until next time, sleep tight and don't answer the phone after midnight.